All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the kickoff of round two of the Electric School Bus Grant Program. My name is Gabrielle Byatt, and I'm an environmental specialist with the Bureau of Mobile Sources over here at the NJDEP. As a member of the Electric School Bus Grant Team, I'll be working closely with future applicants and awardees, and I'm thrilled to be facilitating today's discussion alongside our Bureau Chief, Robin Heston Murphy. We're super excited to talk about the second round of funding available for electric school bus projects. Before we get started with this webinar, I'd like to cover a few technical items. For those who are new to Microsoft Teams, in the right corner of your window, you'll find a microphone icon. Please keep your microphone muted unless you're speaking. Next to the microphone icon is a camera icon to turn your webcam on or off. If you encounter any technical issues during this meeting, please utilize the chat function, and my colleague Laura or I will be able to assist you. I'd also like to cover some housekeeping points before the presentations begin. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, and by participating, you consent to being recorded. The recording and slideshow will be available on our website in the upcoming days for your reference. If you haven't visited our website, definitely give it a check out. There's a lot of really interesting resources, web pages, a lot of things you may find helpful, especially in the transition to electric school buses. At the top of your screen, you'll see a Q&A button. You can use this feature to type in questions or comments. Our staff will be moderating the Q&A, and we will address your questions during the Q&A session at the end of all the presentations, which will probably be approximately 30 minutes. At this time, I'd like to welcome our Bureau Chief, Robin Heston Murphy. Take it away, Robin.
Thanks, Gabby. Good afternoon, everyone. As Gabby said, I am Robin Heston Murphy, and I am the Bureau Chief for the Bureau of Mobile Sources at DEP. I'm excited to be able to kick off round two of our electric school bus grant program today. As part of Governor Murphy's climate change goals, we continue to focus on the transition to electric vehicles, specifically medium and heavy duty vehicles. The transportation sector is the largest contributor to our greenhouse gas emissions, so this shift is crucial. In 2022, the New Jersey Electric School Bus Law was enacted, and this provides funding over 3 years to help school districts and bus contractors transition from diesel to electric school buses. In the first round, which opened in February of 2024, we awarded grants to 14 projects, which will enable the purchase of 48 electric school buses and 37 fast chargers. In addition, 20 diesel school buses will be completely removed from service and decommissioned. So this will result in cleaner air for our students and cost savings for the school districts. At the end of last year, DEP issued a school bus electrification survey, and your feedback was invaluable and helped us refine the program to better meet your needs. So thanks to your input, we've made some key adjustments for round two, which we will go into more detail about in later presentations. But one of the things the survey highlighted was the importance of technical assistance, as well as utility assistance and managing infrastructure cost. So for round two, we have incorporated technical assistance with on-site infrastructure support, and we have identified other sources of funding that can be used with our vehicle incentives so that you can maximize the savings available to you. The solicitation for round two was posted on Monday, and we are going to share a link to that in the chat. And we have an excellent lineup of speakers for you today. Kicking things off is Sarah Stalcup-Jones from CalSTART. She'll provide a national overview of what's happening with electric school buses. And as a project manager on CalSTART's electric school bus team, Sarah leads fleet transition planning, offering technical assistance to school bus fleets nationwide. She helps develop fleet transition plans, provides planning support, and connects fleets to essential tools and resources. Then next, we'll hear from Claire Sugihara, who will dive into the specifics of New Jersey's electric school bus program, focusing on the details of round two. Claire is a senior transportation policy advisor with the DEP. And she plays a key role in developing and supporting DEP's transportation decarbonization initiatives across all vehicle sectors, with a special emphasis on zero emission vehicles. And then wrapping up our presentations will be Sydney Hayes from CalSTART, who will introduce the New Jersey Fleet Advisor Program, which is available to round two grantees. Sydney is a lead project manager at CalSTART's Northeast Regional Office, where she oversees the fleet advisory work. And this includes both the New Jersey and Massachusetts Fleet Advisor programs. These programs assist businesses and municipalities in assessing how electrification can be integrated into their fleet operations. As Gabby mentioned before, we will have the Q&A after all three presentations, but feel free to enter your questions into the chat at any time. And again, the webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website along with the presentation slides, and you can find those via the link that'll be in the chat. So now I'll turn it over to Sarah for a look at the national landscape of electric school buses. Take it away, Sarah.
Thanks so much, Robin. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. As Robin mentioned, I'm on the electric school bus team at CalSTART. I work with school bus fleets nationally. So I'm going to start us off by giving us a little bit of a review of where we are at nationally when it comes to electric school bus adoption. Next slide, please. So before we get into that, I wanted to give a little bit of a background on CalSTART for those of you who haven't heard of us before. We're a mission-based nonprofit working nationally and internationally to advance clean and efficient transportation solutions. And our overall goal is to change transportation for good. We have a number of offices and teams, and today you're going to hear from our Northeast regional team, as well as the electric school bus team. And as Robin mentioned, we run advisory programs around the country. We specialize in fleet transition planning, technical assistance, education and resource distribution, tracking market trends, and then facilitating connections. And a very quick little plug, if those of you on here are interested in learning more about electric school buses, CalSTART hosts a bi-monthly electric school bus national forum. It is a bi-monthly webinar series and forum where we bring together industry folks, advocates, and school districts who are electrifying to talk about what's going on in the industry. So would encourage you guys to sign up for that if you're interested. Our next session will be on October 8th. And then we also have a monthly newsletter that sort of gathers all of the news from around the country when it comes to electric school buses. Next slide, please. So I wanted to also just share a quick map of CalSTART. Our name can be a little bit misleading. We did start in California, but now we are focused nationally. So as you can see here, we do have a Northeast office located in New York, real close to you all, and our Northeast team as well. Next slide, please. So where are we at electrifying school buses in the US? So at this time, we are at about 3% of all buses in the United States, school buses in the United States, being committed to electrification. That includes awarded, on order, delivered, and operational. Of all of the school buses that we have committed to electrification right now, there's about 3,800. About 5,200 of those are on the ground and operating. There is a little bit of a delay there. You know, even in diesel procurement, you see that there's a couple months wait, but we do see that we have a number of buses coming over the next few years. And we do have 49 of our 50 states with electric school buses on the road today. In addition to those states, we have DC, American Samoa, and several tribal nations that are actively operating. And many of those states have more electric school buses to come. For those of you that are curious, the one state that we don't currently have with electric school buses is Wyoming, but they actually have a current funding program that can fund electric school buses. Next slide. So there are a couple of ways that we've seen states approach school bus electrification. One way is through putting up transition mandates and goals. So these are just some examples of some of the states and territories that we see that have either mandates and purchase requirements, such as California, New York, Maryland, Connecticut, Maine, and Delaware, or non-binding transition goals like Colorado, Michigan, DC, and Hawaii. In addition to these states, we did see that several states signed on to the Advanced Clean Truck Rule. That's sort of up in the air right now, but we've seen a number of states express formal commitments to school bus electrification. Next slide. And then we have funding programs, which is another great way that we've seen states show support for electrification. I really love showing this slide because it shows how many state funding programs we've seen over the years and how almost every state, we have 48 of the 50 states, have provided some type of state level program. This is separate from the federal programs that we've seen all states be eligible for. So we've really seen that there's been a pretty wide commitment across the US to helping support school bus electrification. Next slide. And then, of course, all of these programs aren't open at the same time. They ebb and flow throughout the years. But I also just like to share a slide that shows, who is currently active in their funding program. So you can see that we have quite a few states listed here. And when we're talking about state funding programs, we're looking at a variety of sources. That can be from VW settlement programs, DERA programs, RGGI sources, or other sources like air quality control district funding, or just other programs that states have uplifted themselves. Next slide. And I would be remiss if I didn't also mention utility programs. Utility programs have played a very large role in getting school bus electrification and just fleet electrification in general kicked off. These are a couple of examples of past utility programs where electric school bus vehicle funding has been available. I love to highlight these because they allow us to, talk to our utilities, show programs that have worked in the past, and just think of different ways that funding might be available. This is not an exhaustive list. As you can see at the bottom, I've also linked out the Alternative Fuels Data Center. They have a great laws and incentives dashboard where you can look up past and present incentives across the board. Next slide, please. I also like to highlight make-ready infrastructure programs. Outside of the electric vehicle, infrastructure and their installation costs can be a pretty big factor when installing electric vehicles into your fleet. So I wanted to highlight a couple of example programs that are currently open. Like I mentioned before, this is in no means an exhaustive list, but these are quite a few programs that are open in the general area that I think show some really great ways that utilities are supporting fleet electrification. Next slide, please. And I also wanted to highlight New Jersey EV charging programs that are currently available. So we have some from Atlantic City Electrics, Jersey Power and Light, Rockland Electrics, and PSE&G. They all have slightly different programs. You're going to see programs vary from utility to utility, but all of these fleets right now, all of these utilities right now have some sort of program to help support fleets through their electrification process. Next slide, please. Now, one of the questions that we frequently get when we're talking about electrifying school buses across the US is, will electric school buses work for my area? As I mentioned before, 49 out of the 50 states have electric school buses operating. So we do have a good amount of information on electric school buses working in a variety of climates. Cold weather is normally the question that we get asked the most. And I know that New Jersey, the winters can get pretty cold there and you guys can get a decent amount of snow. I lived in Philadelphia for 5 years, so I've experienced that climate firsthand. So I wanted to highlight some case studies from some pretty iconic cold weather states to show you where we've seen that electric school buses have been able to function in these environments. Next slide, please. And sort of takeaways from all of these case studies, I wanted to distill those down for you all. Number one, preconditioning your vehicle is key. That goes for hot weather and cold weather. Preconditioning your vehicle means plugging in your bus to the charger, keeping it plugged in, and either turning on your heater to warm up the batteries in the cabin, or having the air conditioner on before you leave the parking lot. That means that you're drawing your electricity off of the grid rather from your battery, which helps you extend your range. The second is that many school districts noted that their electric school buses oftentimes had more reliability starting up in the cold weather than their diesel counterparts. We know that electric vehicles, like all vehicles, have some barriers to get through in the cold weather, but when it gets cold enough, those diesel buses also struggle to start up in the morning once you get past a certain temperature. We also recommend that when fleets are looking at electric school buses, it is a slightly different type of technology, so you do have to work with it differently than you would your diesel vehicles. So it's really important to consider how to plan your buses seasonally. Range reduction is going to occur during the winter, so we do need to make sure that when we're lining up electric school buses with their routes, that we're planning for that reduction to make sure that they can fulfill the routes that they're placed on. That can mean, not starting off your first electric school buses on your longest routes, maybe starting them on some of your shorter or more medium length routes, and shifting them if you need to throughout the year. We've also noted that gaining experience with the technology can help your drivers and operators build confidence, which therefore helps reduce range anxiety. I know when I get in a rental car and I don't know how fast that the fuel gauge is going to go down, it gives me a little bit of anxiety until I get used to it. We find the same things with our operators and drivers. And then something that was highlighted a couple of times throughout these case studies that I just thought was nice to share was that actually driving electric school buses in cold weather conditions can be favorable because of the low center of gravity on an electric school bus. It can help with handling and prevent fishtails in your snowy and icy conditions. Now, I know that it also gets very hot in the summers in New Jersey. There are less case studies on electric school buses and heat, and that's because generally they operate the same in hot weather environments. The one thing that we want to consider there is talking to your utility early and often and being familiar with what your electric rates are. If you have a utility that has a time of use rate during the summer when everyone's running their air conditioner and the grid is at peak power, it's helpful to know if your electricity rates are going to go up during certain times of the day and how to avoid that for charging. That's also typically less applicable for school districts in the summer because many school districts run their electric school buses less frequently. But for those of you who would be interested in using them for summer programs like summer school, that's just something we like to highlight for fleets to consider. Next slide, please. And I know that there's sort of been a lot of up and down in the news lately about fleet electrification. So I wanted to sort of close off my part of the presentation by sharing recent good news that we've heard for electric school buses. The first is that there has been announcements about movement on the EPA Round 3 funds. In the most recent newsletter from the EPA, they announced that they've dispersed approximately 50% of the programming funded awarded under the 2023 Clean School Bus Rebate Program, and that they're working with remaining selectees to review those submitted payment requests. So we have seen movement on those funds. We've also seen a number of announcements in state funding recently, and I like to highlight these because one of the things that we like to highlight is that movements anywhere with electric school buses nationally right now is going to help the market overall. It's going to help us try to bring costs down to parity, and it's going to give us more operational information of school buses working in a variety of environments. So the Indiana EPA recently announced funding for 46 new electric school buses. Maryland recently announced $12 million for school buses and school bus planning. California announced $500 million to fund an additional 1,000 electric school buses in the state. And New York announced an additional $200 million for their electric school bus incentive program, all of which will help us move the market forward. Next slide, please. And so that's sort of the overview of where we are currently at today. As Gabby mentioned, the slides will be shared out, so I have included all those links in there. And thank you, Anne, for sharing the Electric School Bus Network link in the chat. Here's my contact information, and again, a link to the Electric School Bus Network. And up next, you all will be hearing from Claire. Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Just again, reiterating those National School Bus Network Forum meetings are really helpful. I attend them and they give you a good overview of like the market and different case studies and things like that. So definitely recommend checking that out. But yeah, now I'll start by giving you an overview of our Round 2 Electric School Bus Grant Program. And then later I will give you a quick overview of the actual application process itself. So next slide, yeah, and then the next one. Thank you. Okay, so as a bit of background, Robin already mentioned this, but the program comes out of the 2022 Electric School Bus Law, which called on DEP to provide up to $15 million per year for 3 years to help school districts modernize their fleet with electric school buses. This webinar kicks off year 2 of the program, which is fairly similar to year 1. There's just been a few small updates, and I'll sort of highlight those for you. One thing under this program, approximately half of that $15 million is going to be available under this solicitation. And the other half we've allocated to our EcoHub projects, which are piloting vehicle to building technology using electric school buses. That project is being managed separately from this solicitation, and the participating school districts have already been selected and notified under a separate solicitation for that. Okay. So under this program, eligibility, which you can see on the bottom of the slide here, it's the same exact as it was last year, no changes. So all schools and school districts are eligible to apply, regardless of whether you're public, private, charter, regional, other K through 12 schools. You're all eligible to apply. School bus contractors who provide busing services to any of the eligible schools are also eligible to apply. You just have to apply in conjunction with one of the specified schools or school districts. So you have to tell us which school you're partnering with. If you aren't sure if you qualify, please do reach out to us, send us an email, and we can confirm and help you get oriented. And then, of course, oh, sorry, just one last thing on that slide. Thank you. And then, of course, most importantly, the program applications are due Friday, September 26th by 5 p.m. And we can't accept applications after that deadline. The survey will actually close, so please try to submit early to avoid any issues. Now, next slide. Thanks, Gabby. Okay, so this is the list of some of the eligibility criteria for the buses. This is, again, the same as it was last year. So all the buses must be type C or D, so the bigger all-electric buses. If you're interested in funding for the smaller type A or B buses, we encourage you to look at our diesel fleet modernization program or reach out to us with any questions. But this program is for the bigger type C or D buses. Repowers are not eligible under this program, and used buses are not eligible, but leased buses are eligible as long as you have a lease term of 5 years or more. All the buses must have at least 90 miles of range on a full charge, or 30% more range than the expected daily maximum mileage of the route. Whichever of those is greater. So we really basically are just checking to make sure that the buses are going to be able to meet your operational requirements, that they're going to have enough range. And then finally, we do ask that when you receive the buses, the dealer or manufacturer should be providing your maintenance personnel, bus drivers, and any other relevant employees with training so that we can make sure they know how to use the buses and they're kept up and operational as much as possible. This is all clearly laid out in the solicitation document, so make sure to check back there for the complete list of eligibility details. Next slide. So you can apply for between 2 and 16 buses, and the maximum funding amount per bus and associated charging infrastructure really varies upon whether the district is classified as being an overburdened school district or not. And the criteria for that and a list of overburdened districts or overburdened communities is found on our solicitation document. The actual funding amounts have been updated compared to last year's program. We updated them to reflect the current average incremental cost between an electric school bus and a diesel bus, as well as incorporating funding to account for the loss of the federal tax credit that you were able to apply for last year, but is phasing out this year. So we did increase the amounts to account for that. Also, something new this year, you can request funding for the bus only if you have infrastructure that's already in place or a different plan for getting funding for charging stations. That is an option. If you don't already have charging infrastructure and you would like to request funding for a charging station, you can receive up to an additional $4,000 for a level 2 charging station or up to $20,000 for a DC fast charging station, depending on what you need. And you can apply for a different mix between bus only, level 2, and DC fast charging. Next slide. So you can find this same table in the solicitation document and on our program website. But basically, it just outlines the different state and utility incentive programs that can be stacked with this program. So in this first column in blue, you can see the incentive amounts that are provided under the program, this particular school bus program. And then each of the green boxes is a program that you can stack with this. So for example, if you look at, for example, your school is located in JCP&L territory, you could apply their Make Ready grid upgrade programs and BPU's Make Ready program, in addition to the funding for the hardware that's offered under this program. So these other programs are all for like the grid upgrade, which is what we call Make Ready. So those can be stacked with our program. The Make Ready programs can cover up to 90% of the cost of the utility upgrades needed. So you should really make sure to take a look at these other programs and make sure that you're maximizing the amount of savings that you can get for your school. And yeah, there's a few different options, a few different combinations. So make sure to look deeper into that one a little bit. Next slide. Okay. Just quickly noting here, you are not required to decommission a bus in order to receive a grant. If you do choose to decommission a bus, you'll be awarded additional points in the scoring process. So you have a higher chance of your application being funded. But again, it's not required. We can take a closer look at the scoring criteria in a few slides, but essentially applications will receive full points if you decommission a 2011 or older diesel bus, and you receive half points if you decommission a 2012 or newer diesel bus. So a few different options. And then applicants who do choose to decommission a bus will have 6 months from the time that the new electric school bus is delivered in order to scrap the older bus. So we give you a 6-month window just to provide some flexibility to get the new buses up and running smoothly before you have to get rid of the old bus. Next slide. So taking a look at the charging infrastructure piece specifically, you can see that you're not required, again, to apply for charging infrastructure for the buses under this program, but you will have to tell us how you plan to charge the vehicles if you aren't applying for charging stations. So you could either tell us that you have charging infrastructure in place already, or that you're applying for a separate funding program for chargers, whatever it is, you just have to let us know so that we can make sure you're able to charge the buses when you receive them. If you are applying for chargers under this program, all level 2 charging stations must be Energy Star certified, but DC fast charging stations do not have to be Energy Star certified. And that's just mostly due to the availability of them. We do encourage you, again, I'm just going to state this one a few times because I know it's a little bit confusing, but we do encourage you to take advantage of the grid infrastructure Make Ready programs from the utilities and the Board of Public Utilities for the charging station Make Ready. But the charging station hardware itself cannot be funded with any additional funding programs if you apply for it for funding under this program. All the buses and charging stations must remain operational in New Jersey for at least 5 years. So the same as the buses, it is for the charging stations. So you should consider how you plan to maintain and repair the infrastructure over that time period. Next slide. And then just a few miscellaneous requirements. So all the buses that are awarded, DEP does require telematics devices to be installed on the buses. Those are provided by us at no cost. And we really are just using those to ensure we're meeting all of our programmatic requirements, like operating in overburdened communities, and tracking any sort of operational or maintenance issues that may arise, really just making sure we know what's going on with the buses. We will also be meeting with grantees twice per year, just to sort of touch base with any issues that you're having, track any successes, really just overall checking in. And then just one more time, reiterating, funds are stackable with make-ready incentive programs, and we encourage you to take advantage of those. Next slide. So another new component of this program this year is that we're able to offer free technical assistance for all awardees. So each awardee under the school bus program is going to work with our technical assistance provider, which is CalSTART. You'll hear from them in a minute. And you'll receive one-on-one planning support, including customized roadmaps and on-site assessments. And you don't need to submit any sort of separate application to take advantage of this. All awardees who will be receiving electric school bus grant funds will be automatically eligible for that. Doesn't matter if you're a school district, contractor, you'll be eligible for it. And then, yeah, so as I said, Sydney will dive deeper into this program in a little bit, but first I just want to give you an overview of how to apply to the school bus program in the first place. So next slide. Okay, so this is the scoring criteria that we're going to use for the applicants or for the applications. You can see that the highest number of points are awarded for the project readiness category. And that's a really simple component where you just need to input details about the distances of the routes that you intend to use the buses on and what type of activities they're used for. And then Gabby, if you could click twice. Yeah, thank you. So under the project support category, which is highlighted in red here, we're looking for applicants to submit letters of support from the school board or business administrator indicating their support for the project. There's not really any sort of formal approvals that are needed at this stage, but we just need to see that you're initiating contact with them and that they know that this is coming down the pipeline, so they're not shocked when you suddenly have an award and they're needing to approve that. If you could click to the next. Thank you. For the project timeline, oh, sorry. As I talked about in the previous slide, you don't need to decommission any buses, and whether the school on the application is categorized as an overburden community, basically that's just a checkbox of yes or no. So those two are pretty simple. Now to the next. Thank you. So for the project timeline, we're just looking for information on when you would plan to order the buses and charging infrastructure, when you plan to install the charging infrastructure, when you plan to acquire the buses, just really high level of when you expect all this to happen. Basically, we just want to see that you have a realistic timeline for when these different milestones should happen, and make sure you're aware that the buses won't be delivered for, a year or more. And that charging stations need to be installed before the buses are delivered and various things like that. Just making sure, things aren't coming down in the next month or two. And then the last one, thank you. So we need a proposed approach to how y'all procure buses and charging infrastructure. So applicants need to show us that sufficient funding is going to be available to cover any of the additional costs beyond the maximum funding amounts of the program. So again, this can be statements that you're planning to apply for utility make-ready programs, what sort of internal funding you have to support the buses, and various things like that. So just high level, making sure we know that you're going to be able to provide support for the additional costs. And next slide. Okay. So that was the quick overview of the program, and now I just have a few slides outlining the actual application itself, and then I'll pass it over to Sydney. So next slide. So when you first click on the application, you're going to see a landing page with a few different reminders, including the due date, the eligibility, funding amounts, eligible expenses, a lot of different things like that. Once you click the next button, you will be taken to an acknowledgements page with a few different checkboxes on it. You will also see a warning about incomplete applications. So just wanting to highlight this, the SurveyMonkey platform does not allow you to save progress and come back to it. So once you start answering questions, if you stop partway through and close the web page, the system will still send this to us as an incomplete application. We will be deleting any incomplete applications that come through, and they won't be considered for award since they are incomplete. So really, to avoid submitting an incomplete application, please don't start the application until you know that you have all the required information and uploads ready to go in front of you. We've included 6 checkboxes on the page that describe all the information that you need to make sure you have everything ready to go. We also have a PDF of the full application on the website, so you can look through that and see all the information that you need and make sure you have it ready to go. And then just one more note that all the questions that do require an answer have an asterisk, and the questions that do not have an asterisk are not required, so you don't have to answer those. Next slide. So there's a series of 4 different pages for the actual application. So the first page, section A, very simple. It's just applicant information. So point of contact, name of entity applying, contact information, overburden community status, all very straightforward. So it shouldn't be anything too intense. Next slide. Section B is also very short and simple. You just need to input the number of buses and charging stations that you're applying for. And then as I mentioned before, if you're not applying for charging stations, you can just put 0 for those, or you can mix and match between the 3 different categories, just inputting information about number that you're applying for. Next slide. So section C looks long, but it's really not. So the first question just asks you how many buses you'll be decommissioning under the program. And again, if you're not decommissioning any, just put 0, and that's fine. If you are not scrapping any buses, you can just skip the rest of the section and move on to the next page. If you are scrapping buses, we do ask for some specific information about each bus so that we can calculate the emissions benefits. Basically, we just ask for 5 things. We need each of the buses that you're decommissioning. We need their weight, their model year, their annual miles traveled, gallons of diesel used per year, and the number of idling hours per year. And then you just repeat that same 5 pieces of information for as many buses as you plan to scrap. There is space for up to 16 buses here, but you only need to fill out the number of questions that correspond to the number of buses that you're decommissioning. So say, for example, you're decommissioning 3 buses. You would just fill that out for the 3 buses and then skip the rest of the 13 boxes. Next slide. So this last section is a little bit more intensive, and this is where you'll be asked to upload all the information that we asked for under that scoring criteria. So there's a text box where you'll upload information about your routes and activities that the new buses will be used for. And then there's 3 places where you'll upload files. So the first, again, is that letter from the school board or business administrator indicating support for the project. The second one is the project timeline. And then the third one is the budget file with your proposed acquisition approach. These files should all be prepared, again, in advance before you begin the application so that we don't record an incomplete application. And then just finally, please include your entity name in the file name so that we can keep track of the document so that we know, okay, this one belongs to this fleet and this one belongs to a different one. That just helps us keep track. Next slide. And then once you've uploaded the files, you're all done, and you will see a thank you screen appear, and you can close out of the window. And then just noting that we are planning to have awardees selected in late fall, so you can keep your eyes out for a notification around then as to whether or not you've been selected. Next slide. So again, our electric school bus website is a hub for all things related to this grant. It has the complete solicitation, the application, and it'll have a recording of this webinar. We also keep it updated with lots of good resources, program announcements, all things related to this program will go on there. So be sure to check back there regularly for any updates. If you do still have questions after today's webinar, you can reach out to the email on the screen. We'll get those answered for you. And yeah, with that, I will pass it over to Sydney for more details. Thanks.
Thanks, Claire. Wonderful presentation, and I'm excited to talk to you all about New Jersey Fleet Advisor, the program that we'll be taking you through if you are awarded a grant. Let's go to the first slide, please. All right, so let's give you a background on the main players in the New Jersey Fleet Advisor program. So the program is administered by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, NJDEP. Claire works very closely on the program you just heard from, and CalSTART, who I am with, we are the lead consultant. We manage the program and prepare each fleet's fleet electrification roadmap. And then Current Master Electric is our on-site electric infrastructure assessment provider. So they come out to each of your sites and they take a look at the existing electric infrastructure capacity to help you evaluate the infrastructure upgrades or service upgrades you may need to support charging for your buses. Next slide, please. So New Jersey Fleet Advisor was created to address the significant challenges that fleets face in transitioning to zero-emission buses by creating personalized fleet electrification roadmaps at zero cost to the fleet. So this program is 100% free to all of our participants. And this is year 2 of the program. We have 15 slots available for both truck fleets and the school bus fleets that we're focused on today. Next slide. All right, so New Jersey Fleet Advisor is open to public, private, and nonprofit fleets and school districts operating in New Jersey that have medium or heavy duty vehicles, have 50 vehicles or less, and own or lease their vehicles for a minimum of 36 months, and priority is given to fleets in overburdened communities. Now, this is less criteria that everyone here will have to worry about because, as we'll get to in a moment, all of the grant awardees will be automatically enrolled in New Jersey Fleet Advisor. Next slide. So this gives you an overview of what exactly we do. So each of our participants will receive a fleet electrification roadmap as the program deliverable. So what's inside of that is vehicle recommendations, so one-to-one zero-emission vehicle replacement recommendations for each of your current buses. We'll match you with those zero-emission vehicles that can meet your current duty cycle needs. We do cost projections, so total cost of ownership analysis for each vehicle, so you can see how much you may be projected to save by transitioning to zero-emission buses, including the fuel and maintenance savings. And we model that with and without the grant you're expected to receive, so you can see the savings you might expect over time. An on-site electric infrastructure assessment. So this is what I mentioned earlier. We have electricians that will come out to visit your parking locations for your buses and evaluate the existing electric capacity that you have and what service or infrastructure upgrades you may need to support charging, as well as a proposed location for the chargers. Next, we provide an overview of funding and incentives and the details on how to apply for each incentive available and the criteria. And then we also give you foundational knowledge on zero-emission vehicles. So everything you need to know to transition and special considerations that you may need for zero-emission vehicles that you may not be used to with your current vehicles. Next slide. All right, so how to participate. It's really easy for all of the participants considering today. Awardees of the ESP program will be immediately eligible for participation in New Jersey Fleet Advisor, and you do not need to complete our application that other fleets need to complete. So the New Jersey Fleet Advisor team will onboard fleets after the award announcements are given around the fall. So we'll reach out to you and we'll get you started in the program, and there's not much that you need to do on your own. Next slide. All right, so here's the process of participating in the program. So first we'll send you a participation agreement. It goes over many of the things that I've mentioned already, that the program is 100% free, that we need to identify a project lead to work with us on the program. And then the biggest lift that we need from you is to submit our fleet intake form with the fleet data needed to develop your roadmap. So there's a screenshot on here. It's a bit hard to see or recognize, but take a closer look at it once we onboard you. So it's an Excel-based form. And for each group of vehicles, so like type A buses, type C, you can list them on one line, and we ask for things like quantity, class, passenger size. And then what's really important for us to capture is the average annual mileage. This will tell us the amount of range that you need from a bus, so we can make sure we're giving you recommendations that match your current duty cycle. And then operational schedule. So this will tell us when your buses can charge, how much time they have to charge, which will help us determine the power of charger that you'll need and any service upgrades that you would need to support that charger. So we send you this form. Once you're able to complete it, there's not much else required on the fleet's end other than participating in the site assessment with Current Master Electric. And again, they do most of the heavy lifting there. They'll come out and take a look at your site, and you'll just need to coordinate scheduling with that. And then just follow along with the ESV awardee guidelines for vehicle procurement. And NJDEP will help you out with that process along the way. Next slide. All right, so here's just a slide I love to show some examples of vehicles that you can expect to see in your fleet electrification roadmap. So there's a variety of zero emission buses on the market. And what we do is we take that fleet intake form and we try to match as best we can with the specifications of the vehicles on the market so that we can give you recommendations that are best fit to meet the operations that you have currently in your fleet. Next slide. So this is a rough timeline of what you can expect for the program. So in the fall this year, as Claire was just mentioning, the applications for the ESV program will be due. Announcements will follow. And then after the announcements, we'll onboard you to New Jersey Fleet Advisor. We'll collect and submit your fleet data. And then after that, we'll do your on-site infrastructure assessments. And then our team will take our work on the fleet electrification roadmap. And that typically takes about 4 weeks after we get your fleet intake form submitted. So we'll work on your roadmap, and the final deliverable will be in like a PDF package for you. Next slide. And that's all. That's all I have on the New Jersey Fleet Advisor program. You can visit our website that's linked here. That'll tell you a little bit more details about the program. And then my email is listed there, Sydney Hayes. Ruth is another project team member that works quickly and can answer your questions. But thank you so much for the time. Excited to meet our new participants later this fall. Right. It's time to open it up for Q&A. Oh, we can't hear you, Gabby.
You know?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. Amazing presentations, everyone. Lots of exciting things happening, and I'm sure even more exciting questions. At this time, we will begin our live Q&A. As mentioned in the beginning of this webinar, please drop your questions in the Q&A chat, and we will try our best to answer each and every one of you. If we don't have time to answer every single question, or if you have a more private question pertaining to your specific situation, shoot us an email, stopthesoot@dep.nj.gov, and then just make sure in that subject line, put Electric School Bus Grant Program Round 2. All right, so our director was ever so kind to answer some of these questions in the chat, but I'm going to go through some anyway. So let's start right at the top. We have Julie over at Ridgewood. She says, your picture with buses shows small buses, but you mentioned that the grant is only for large buses, C and D. Can you please clarify if small buses, 18 and 24 passengers, are eligible?
I can say something on that one. So Sydney's picture and the Fleet Advisor program is beyond necessarily what the grant is. So the grant itself is only for the C and D buses, the larger buses. But once you are selected for applying to the grant program, you go into the Fleet Advisor program, and the Fleet Advisor program can look at your whole fleet. They don't have to just look at the buses that you're awarded for under the grant program. So, like, say you have 10 type C and D buses in your fleet and 5 type A or B buses in your fleet, and you're applying for 2 type C and B buses under this grant. Fleet Advisor will look at your whole fleet and give you options of replacement programs. So that program, there's no funding for the buses, but they can evaluate the feasibility, including the smaller buses. Hopefully that's not too confusing.
Thank you so much, Claire. All right, we have another question from Ace. Do applicants score more if they want to future-proof and install V2G electric chargers at their site?
Sorry, I was trying to find where that's written.
Oh, yeah, no problem, Claire. It's right at the top of the Q&A on the button.
Okay, I don't think it's showing up for me. Could you read it again? Sorry.
Sure, of course. Do applicants score more if they want to future-proof and install V2G electric chargers at their site?
Oh, that's not one of our scoring criteria, so it's not accounted for. But yeah, it's good to know people are interested in that though.
Awesome. Thanks, Claire. All right. Another one from Julie at Ridgewood, and it looks like our wonderful director answered this one, so I'll just read the question out loud and read the answer out loud for anybody interested. So of all the district awarded grant money, will only 15 be paired with the New Jersey Fleet Advisor? And Melissa answered and said the NJ Fleet Advisor program averages 15 fleets a year. Not all districts that apply may need the technical assistance program. We will try to provide technical assistance to as many districts that need it. Another one from Julie at Ridgewood. Is this program for districts to replace their fleet with e-buses, or is it also intended for districts who are building a new fleet? This program is for anyone who is interested in electric school buses. Right, moving on from Stanislav. Is the grant direct pay or reimbursement? This is a reimbursement program, but there are advanced payment options available. That's a good one to know. Another one from Stanislav. Can diesel bus decommissioning precede ESB delivery? And the answer for that one, any decommissioning to be considered as part of the scoring for this program should not be performed prior to the grant award. Another good one. All right, another one from Stanislav. You stated a minimum 10 seats occupancy, but the Class A and B ESB are not eligible for funding. Please clarify. And some of the ESB shown by Sydney are clearly Class A, B. Are they eligible for grant? So that one doesn't have an answer. Can anybody take that one?
Yeah, so that's what I was saying before. The Fleet Advisor program, we can look at the smaller vehicles, but not the grant program. The grant program is for the larger vehicles. And again, if you are interested in grants for the smaller vehicle types, just send us an email at the email on the screen because we have a different program for that.
Thank you, Claire. All right, we have one from David. Will applying for just buses have any impact on application scoring? Example, will applications requesting funds for both buses and infrastructure be looked upon more favorably? Claire, would you like to elaborate on that one?
No, it's all the same. So if you want just buses or you want buses and charging infrastructure, that's up to you. It won't impact scoring. It's all the same.
Perfect. All right. And then we have another one from Lori. Sorry, may have missed this. Are nonprofit organizations such as the Boys and Girls Club of Garfield, which has school sites and serves all of its district schools, eligible to apply?
Yes.
Right, we're moving along. The chat is getting real busy. I'm loving it so far. All right, so from Joy, does the district have to already own the buses? What if they just want to buy one bus, however, contract with other districts for regular busing?
Yeah, and I can Melissa did respond to this one as well. It says districts do not have to own buses to be eligible for the program. There's a minimum of applying for 2 buses, but you can contract with other districts. And yeah, you don't have to scrap a bus. So if you want to start owning buses, but you haven't previously, that's also fine. Yep, flexible.
So, all right, we have some more. All right, so from Tanush, what's a solution to grid overloading for the electricity provider?
I don't have a good answer for this one. I don't know if anybody else does. I would just say, we are looking for the applicants to work with their utility provider to make sure that you have the appropriate grid solutions. We won't just let you, put something in the ground without having any sort of communication with your utility. So
Stunning. Thank you, Claire. And just to remind everybody on the webinar, please put your questions in the Q&A button, just so I can read through everything in order here. I know some people are throwing them in the chat. We do have some really useful links in the chat, but save those questions for the Q&A button. So just pop them over here so I can make sure I read through them. Right, so we had a question. I am from a local environmental group, not a school district. Would my school district have been made aware of this program? So I could probably answer that one because I send out all the emails and all the good stuff. Yes. So as long as the school district is on our mailing list, follows our social media, goes on our websites. This program is advertised quite often, and I know we've been kind of teasing round 2 for several months now. We've been going to webinars and talks, but if you just want to make sure that they're signed up for our mailing list, definitely head over to our website or shoot us an email, and we can get you situated with that, your school district situated with all of that. Right, another one. How much will I need to pay out of pocket?
So it depends on what quotes you receive back from your vendors on what buses you end up going with. They can vary quite a bit depending on the different manufacturers and the different specifications. So you'll need to get the quotes from the manufacturers and then just look at our grants amounts and subtract from there. And then it also depends on if you're going to apply for any of those other programs that you can stack with. So any of the utility make-ready programs or Board of Public Utilities programs. So it varies quite a bit depending on where you're located, what bus, and different things like that.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that also. My name is Anne. I'm the manager of the grants program for these grants. So it also, like I think we mentioned before, it's a reimbursement program. So you would have to pay upfront the cost, and then you wouldn't get the you wouldn't be able to get the reimbursement back until after your grant agreement is executed. So there could be some costs that you'd have to put up out front. Just be aware of that.
Beautiful. Thank you for chiming in, Anne, and thank you, Claire. All right. I have another one. I wanted to clarify the funding is a maximum of $350,000 per bus, not per application, correct?
Yes.
We pop over to the chat to make sure I didn't miss any on that side, but just a, welcoming reminder to have your questions in the Q&A. Over. Right. So, looks like we have everything covered. Let me pop back over to the Q&A and see if anything else. We still have plenty of time. So drop those questions in the chat. Send us those emails. All right, we have a few coming in right now. Are the funds reimbursed gradually or at the end of 3 years?
The funds, I can answer that. The funds are reimbursed depending, there is options for advanced payment. So if you want advanced payment, you should request that upfront. Like once you're notified that you received an award and a grant officer is assigned to your project, you would let them know if you're interested in requesting advanced payment. You could request advanced payment either up to 75% or 90% of the grant amount. But you can't receive that until after the grant agreement is executed. The grant agreement has to be executed and you have to submit a purchase order to us showing that you have the buses on order. And then typically within about 2 weeks or so, the advance payment is issued. And then the remaining 10% is not reimbursed until if you're decommissioning, we have to see that the buses that you've agreed to decommission are fully decommissioned. And you also have to submit invoices that show us that you paid the entire amount in order to get the remaining 10% back reimbursed.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Anne. All right, I'm going to keep going through. You guys are sending in excellent questions. I'm going to try to get through all of them here. All right, so we have from Gil, would V2G be eligible?
So yes, you just don't receive any additional funding. So like if you were getting a B2G capable DC fast charging station, you wouldn't get more money. You would just get the amount as a standard non-V2G capable DC fast charger. But if you want that's V2G capable, that's fine.
Let's keep it going. Thanks, Claire. Right, from David, can a school bus contractor submit multiple applications for different New Jersey school districts they serve? If so, how will this impact the applicant award cap?
Yeah, so you can submit multiple applications for different schools. That's great. There's no problem with that. It's just per application, you can only apply for up to 16 buses. So each contractor school pairing is one application. So one contractor could apply with, say, 3 different schools, 3 different applications, each application up to 16 buses.
So thank you
So
so
yeah,
much.
the cap is not, the 16 buses cap is not, say, on a contractor. It's on an application.
Gotcha. All right, we have another one from Ace. Are the chargers required to be BABA? And it looks like our director, Melissa, answered this one. The charging stations are not required to meet Build America, Buy America, but level 2 charging stations are required to be Energy Star certified. Let's See if will you have the recording available? Absolutely, Stanislav. That will be on our website. In the next, I would say, few days, give it a few days. And then we'll have the slides up there as well, too. We'll give it a few minutes, see if anything new comes in. Excellent questions so far. And excellent answers, of course. Give it another minute or so. And then we can wrap everything up. But I want to make sure we get to everybody if you think of anything. Needs to be writing down. All right. Seems to be quieting down, so I'm going to proceed on ahead. So I just want to thank everyone so much for attending the Electric School Bus Grant Program Round 2 webinar. As always, and I say this too because I run our social media pages, but please give us a like and follow on our social media pages. Visit our websites. We have really up-to-date website information. We recently redid a lot of our websites too, so definitely go check them out. A lot of great resources on there. And of course, sign up for our mailing list. That is where you will get notified about future funding opportunities, and also some exciting events coming up. Thank you, thank you, thank you again, and have a beautiful Wednesday afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. Take care.